In the early 1980s, the Miami Dolphins, one of the best teams in the NFL for the past decade, were starting a new era, and they struck gold in the 1983 NFL Draft. Everyone knows about their first-round pick that year, Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But 7 rounds and more than 200 picks after they selected Marino, the Dolphins found a player who would go on to be his top target, one of the greatest receivers in franchise history. I'm Steven Jackson, and in this episode of Legends, we dive into the career of Martin Clayton. With his dynamic playmaking ability, he helped shape the Miami Dolphins become one of the most iconic offenses of all time. Mark Gregory Clayton was born April 8, 1961, in Indianapolis, Indiana. Although he was a multi-sport athlete growing up, football was where he shined the brightest. Coaches at the University of Louisville saw something in the 5'9" speedster and offered him the scholarship. At Louisville, Clayton worked his way up the depth chart. Then as a senior, Clayton broke out. But as the NFL draft approached, Clayton's size was still an issue for a lot of scouts. Despite being one of the best senior receivers, Clayton saw 27 pass catchers taken ahead of him in the 1983 draft. But in the 8th round, with the 223rd overall pick, the Miami Dolphins took a shot on Mark. No one could have predicted the impact he would have on the game. Paired together in a rookie camp, Clayton and Marino built a connection that would become one of the most dangerous tandems in the NFL. Mark spent his rookie year mostly serving as Miami's punt returner, but he worked his way up the depth chart and broke into the starting lineup at the onset of the 1984 season. Known for his speed, sharp routes, and a knack for finding the end zone, Clayton became one of the top receivers in the NFL. The 1984 season will be a historic one for the Dolphins, and Clayton will play a huge role in their success. He caught 73 passes for 1,389 yards and set a new NFL record with 18 receiving touchdowns. His chemistry with Marino helped Miami storm through the regular season with a 14-2 record, securing home field advantage throughout the playoffs. In the playoffs, the Dolphins continued their dominance, defeating the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers on their way to Super Bowl 19. Clayton had touchdown catches in each game, bringing his season total to 20. The Dolphins ultimately lost to the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, but Clayton's contribution to that 1984 season were undeniable. Some receivers don't just catch passes, they transform offenses, and Mark Clayton, he was one of those receivers. His quickness and ability to find separation made him a nightmare for defensive players. His combination of speed and precise route running allowed him to take the top off of opposing defenses with ease. But it wasn't just his speed, it was his ability to adjust to Marino's throws and make the tough catches in traffic that set him apart. Clayton had a rare combination of vision and athleticism that made him a go-to man in critical moments. From 1984 to 1989, Clayton was one of the best receivers in the NFL, always ranked near the top of the league in catches and yards. He was named to the Pro Bowl 4 times during the 6-year span and twice led the NFL in touchdown grabs. Clayton's time in Miami was also defined by his partnership with fellow Dolphins wide receiver Mark Duper. Together, they were known as the Marks brothers, giving Marino one of the most dynamic wide receiver tandems in NFL history. In 1991, Clayton hauled 70 passes in for over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns to earn his 5th Pro Bowl nod. He would play just one more season with Miami and spent his final NFL season with the Green Bay Packers in 1993. He finished his Dolphins career with 82 touchdowns, which remains a franchise record. So are his 550 receptions. His 8,643 receiving yards are second only to Duper. Still, Clayton's impact on the Dolphins' legacy goes beyond statistics. His electrifying playmaking lifted the team's offense, and his chemistry with Marino made Miami a perennial contender during his time there and helped define an era. Even though Clayton never won a Super Bowl, his contribution to the Dolphins offense made them one of the most exciting teams in the 1980s. And that's why Mark Clayton is a legend.